Have you ever wondered how envy can turn neighbors into enemies? How a mother's love can blind her into darkness? How a child's laughter can carry both joy and tragedy? What if one moment of jealousy could poison a whole generation? And what if, through all the pain, an innocent little girl named Amaka still carried the strength to rise? Stay tuned as we dive into a true life story. Kitata was a small, lively village, tucked between rolling green hills and fertile valleys. Each morning the golden sun would rise above the huts, painting the earth with warmth, while the villagers bustled in the marketplace. The air always smelled of fresh tomatoes, roasted maize, and the faint perfume of hibiscus flowers growing along the paths. Among the people, one woman stood out, Mama Amaka. She was a single mother, young yet determined, with a smile that carried both warmth and courage. She had known hardship after the passing of her husband, but she refused to bow to poverty. Instead, she poured her energy into running a small but thriving stall in the village market. Her stall overflowed with plump red tomatoes, fiery peppers glistening like rubies, and fresh garden vegetables. Customers flocked daily, not only because of the quality of her goods, but also because of her kindness. She greeted each buyer with soft words, laughter, and sometimes even a blessing. And beside her, like a tiny shadow, was her beautiful daughter Amaka, a 3-year-old girl with sparkling eyes and innocent giggles. Amaka was her mother's joy, her comfort, and a reason to fight for life. Every time Amaka laughed, the villagers said, "This child carries the light of her late father." But not all eyes in Kitata were filled with admiration. Just across the market stood another stall, run by Mama Judu, a widow like Mama Amaka, but with a bitter heart. She too sold tomatoes and peppers, but while Mama Amaka's stall bustled with customers, hers remained nearly empty. She would sit on her stool, watching the endless line at Mama Amaka's stall, her eyes burning with envy. She had only one child, a son named Judu, affectionately called Dudu, a playful little boy also 3 years old. She adored him more than anything in the world. Yet her heart was restless. She could not bear to watch Mama Amaka succeed while her own life felt stagnant. To add to her bitterness, whenever Judu played with Amaka, he always returned crying. His knees scratched, his tiny arms swollen, his cheeks bruised. "Who did this to you?" Mama Judu would ask in alarm, cradling her son. "It's Amaka," little Judu would cry, sobbing into his mother's wrapper. This became a pattern. Day after day, the children played. And day after day, Judu returned with fresh injuries. Some villagers dismissed it as ordinary children's play, but to Mama Judu, it felt like a curse. Her stall was failing. Her son was always hurt. The whispers in her heart grew louder. You will never know peace until Amaka is gone. One restless night, unable to sleep, Mama Judu sat on her bamboo mat. The oil lamp flickered weakly beside her as thoughts clouded her mind. Her face hardened. Maybe this child is the reason my life is cursed. Maybe if Amaka is gone, Judu will heal, and my business will rise again. She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. But she is just a child, an innocent child. Still, the seed of darkness had been planted. She lay back, staring at the thatched roof, as hatred grew inside her like a slow fire. 2 weeks later, the village buzzed with excitement. It was Judu's birthday, and Mama Judu wanted it grand. She cooked pots of jollof rice, fried meat, and baked a colorful cake. Children from the village were invited. Mama Judu moved through the market with a bright voice and borrowed joy. "You are invited," she said, handing out small paper notes. "Come celebrate my boy." And so was Mama Amaka, her longtime market neighbor. She approached Mama Amaka last. "Sister," she said, a smile tight on her face. "Come with Amaka," Mama Judu had said sweetly, her smile hiding bitterness. "Let the children celebrate together." On the day of the party, Mama Amaka dressed her daughter in a pretty blue gown. her hair tied with ribbons. Together they arrived at the celebration, greeted by laughter, drums, and dancing. Little Amaka sat beside the birthday boy, both children grinning, their tiny legs dangling from the wooden bench. Everyone clapped as the cake was brought out. The cake was cut, slices shared, and laughter filled the air. But when the pieces were done, Amaka was left without. Her little face fell, eyes watering. Mama Judu leaned close to her son and whispered. Judu nodded, then turned to Amaka with a smile. Wait, Amaka, Mama has something special for you. From inside the house, Mama Judu emerged holding a container. Her face glowed with fake warmth. This cake is only for Amaka. She deserves it. She handed it to her son, who gave it to Amaka. Eat, Judu urged. Mama says it will make you strong. Amaka held the piece, but her little heart felt uneasy. She lifted it halfway, then dropped it. Mama, I don't want. No appetite. Her mother laughed gently. Then give it to me, my child. She tasted it, smiling to reassure Amaka. But Mama Judu leaned forward quickly, insisting, No, it is for Amaka. She must eat it. Still, Amaka shook her head. Mama, you eat. I don't want. Innocently, she handed the cake back to her mother. Mama Amaka ate it, not knowing it carried death. The next morning, Mama Amaka awoke weak. Her body burned with fever, her lips dry, her voice fading. She could not move. Within hours, she was rushed to the village clinic. The doctor's face grew dark. Her heart slowed. By nightfall, she was gone. The post-mortem revealed it, poison. When the news broke, Kitata fell into silence. The market women wailed. Elders gathered, furious. Their suspicion turned to one person, Mama Judu. You gave her the poisoned cake, they accused. Though she denied, the evidence was too clear. She and her son were banished from the village, and so, carrying her son on her back, her face stained with tears, Mama Judu walked out of Kitata. Villagers watched in sorrow and anger. Some spat, others shook their heads, while little Judu clung to his mother's wrapper, crying, too young to understand. Left behind was little Amaka, only 4 years old, suddenly motherless. With no relatives stepping forward, she was left to wander. She begged in the streets, her once beautiful dress now torn and dirty. She slept near rubbish pits, her tiny hands stretched out for food. Some people gave her coins, others chased her away. The child who once carried laughter now carried sorrow. One afternoon, as traffic filled the nearby town, a black car slowed. From the window, a woman saw the little girl by the roadside, dusty, barefoot, and crying. The woman froze, her heart trembling. Amaka, she whispered. She parked quickly and ran out. It was Amaka, her late brother's daughter. Tears flowed as she lifted the child into her arms. My child, forgive me for not finding you earlier. She took Amaka home, washed her, dressed her in clean clothes, and fed her until she smiled again. For the first time in years, Amaka slept on a soft bed. Her beauty began to return. Her cheeks filled, her eyes brightened. The woman, her aunt, loved her deeply. And Amaka, though cautious, started to believe that maybe life was changing. Amaka's aunt, whose name was Neka, lived in a modest but neat compound on the edge of town. Her home had painted walls, a little flower garden, and a kitchen filled with the aroma of stews and spices. For Amaka, stepping into that home felt like entering heaven after the rubbish pits where she had been sleeping. On her first night, she sat on a cushion, staring shyly at the steaming plate of rice and beans placed before her. My child, eat, Neka urged gently. You must regain your strength. Amaka hesitated. For so long, food had been scraps from strangers or crumbs she found in the market. Slowly, she picked a spoonful, tasted it, and her eyes widened. It was warm, it was seasoned, it was love on a plate. Neka watched her with tears in her eyes. You look just like your mother. She was my brother's wife, but I loved her as my sister. I failed her, Amaka. Forgive me for not coming sooner." Amaka paused, spoon halfway to her lips. Her tiny voice whispered, "Mama used to call me her sunshine. Do you also think I'm sunshine?" Neka's heart broke. She hugged the little girl tightly. "Yes, my child. You are the brightest sunshine I have ever seen." From that day, Amaka started calling her Mama Neka. Weeks passed. Amaka's cheeks regained their roundness, her hair was combed neatly, and she was dressed in clean clothes. For the first time, she attended school. Other children giggled at her old scars, but her natural beauty and bright mind soon made her stand out. Teachers loved her, and Mama Neka proudly told neighbors, "This girl will go far." At night, Amaka would kneel by her bed and whisper prayers. "God, thank you for giving me a new mother. Please don't take her away too." And every time, Neka would hear her and reassure her, "I am here. I will never leave you." But not all promises are meant to be kept. Behind the tender smiles, Neka carried a hidden weakness: greed. Though she loved Amaka, poverty pressed her hard. When her friend, Madame Ifeoma, whispered about a wealthy businessman looking for a young girl, Neka's heart wavered. "She's only a child," Neka argued. Madame Ifeoma leaned closer, her voice low. "Do you know what money he pays? Enough to change your life, enough to buy land, enough to leave this struggle behind." Neka sat in silence, torn between love and greed. Finally, she sighed. Maybe it will be quick. Maybe she won't even remember." Thus the betrayal was born. One evening, as the sun painted the sky orange, Neka called Amaka. "Tomorrow we will visit a friend of mine. She is very kind. You will like her," she said with forced cheer. Amaka tilted her head. "Will she give me sweets?" Neka chuckled, masking her guilt. "Yes, maybe even more than sweets." Amaka, innocent and trusting, smiled. "Okay, Mama, I will go." The next day, Amaka dressed smartly in a white dress with tiny red flowers. They walked to Madame Ifeoma's compound, which was larger, with tall gates and tiled floors. Ifeoma welcomed them warmly, showering Amaka with compliments. "What a beautiful girl, like a princess," she said, stroking her hair. Amaka blushed shyly and held Neka's hand. They ate, laughed, and spent the day in apparent joy. But as night approached, Ifeoma spoke softly. "It's late. You should both sleep here. We have prepared a special room for Amaka." Amaka frowned. "But I want to sleep with Mama." Neka knelt down, cupping her cheek. "My sunshine, just for tonight. This room is soft, with a new bed just for you. Don't worry, I will be close by." Reluctantly, Amaka agreed. She entered the room, beautifully decorated with clean sheets and a soft pillow. For a girl used to hardship, it felt like a palace. Yet her heart felt heavy. As soon as Amaka settled in, Neka and Ifeoma sneaked out, carrying a phone hidden under a wrapper. They dialed. "She is here," Ifeoma whispered. "Come quickly, bring the money." Within an hour, headlights appeared at the gate. A large man, tall and heavy, entered with a briefcase. He counted bundles of cash, placed them on the table, and said coldly, "Where is the girl?" Neka's heart raced. She thought of Amaka's laughter, her prayers, her little arms around her neck. A tear slipped, but she pushed it away. "She is inside," she whispered. That night, Amaka was praying quietly by her bed. "God, thank you for this day. Please protect me." She heard the door creak. At first, she smiled. "Mama?" But instead of Neka, a huge man stepped in, his face hard, his breath heavy. He said nothing, only moved swiftly toward her. Amaka's little heart pounded. Fear gripped her. "Who are you? Where is Mama?" she cried. The man grabbed her tiny hands. She screamed, struggling. Then, "Ring! Ring!" His phone rang loudly in his pocket. Annoyed, he loosened his grip to silence it. In that instant, Amaka noticed the door was not locked. She pulled free, ran with all her strength, and burst into the compound. The moonlight guided her as she ran barefoot into the night, her cries echoing. "Help! Somebody help!" Behind her, angry voices shouted. but she was already far gone. She ran until dawn, her legs trembling, her throat dry. Just as the first light touched the sky, she stumbled upon a signpost. She couldn't read the words, but it stood in front of a big gate. Exhausted, she collapsed by the gate, sobbing. The night guard, Askari, heard the cries. Torchlight flashed, guns ready. When they saw the tiny girl, they lowered their weapons. "Who is this child?" one asked, crouching. She could barely speak. Only tears fell. They carried her inside, straight to the director's office. The director, a kind man with gray hair and gentle eyes, looked at her with concern. "My child, what happened to you?" Amaka tried to speak, but her lips trembled. No words came. "She has seen horror," the guard explained softly. The director sighed deeply. "Then let her find peace here. She will be one of ours." And so, Amaka was registered in the orphanage school. Years passed in the orphanage. Amaka healed slowly. She studied hard, driven by the memory of her late mother and the betrayal she had faced. Teachers marveled at her intelligence. "This girl will go far," they often said. Her beauty bloomed again, graceful, confident, and dignified. She learned leadership, kindness, and faith. By the time she graduated high school, the director was proud. "You will make your mother proud," he told her, handing her a scholarship to university. At university, Amaka pursued a bachelor's in business administration. She excelled, her resilience shining through every challenge. During her part-time job at a non-profit organization, she met Chidi, a young man with a bright smile and gentle manners. He was hardworking, respectful, and always eager to help others. They became friends, then slowly love blossomed. One evening, as they walked by the roadside after work, Chidi stopped. "Amaka, I see strength in you. You've suffered much, but you shine brighter than anyone I know. I want to walk this journey with you. Forever." Tears filled her eyes. "Do you mean marriage?" Chidi smiled warmly. "Yes, if you'll have me." Her heart leaped. For the first time, hope of true happiness returned. The wedding was set in the most prestigious hotel in town. Invitations were sent far and wide. The hall glittered with flowers, lights, and joyful music. The director of the orphanage stood proudly as her father figure. Chidi's mother sat with dignity, her eyes shining. Guests dressed in their finest clothes, taking photos and laughing. Amaka wore a breathtaking white gown, her beauty radiant like morning light. Chidi stood tall in his black suit, holding her hand. The pastor smiled warmly, opening his Bible. "Today, we join two souls in holy matrimony." The Mass began. Hymns filled the hall. Cameras clicked endlessly. The crowd watched in joy. Then came the confessions. Chidi went first. "I promise to love you, Amaka, with all my heart, in sickness and in health, in joy and sorrow, till death do us part." Amaka, with tears of joy, replied, "I promise to honor you, support you, and love you for all my days, with God as my witness." The pastor lifted the rings. Time for the vows. But as Chidi held the ring to place on her finger, his body trembled. His chest heaved, his eyes rolled wildly. "Chidi?" Amaka gasped. The crowd murmured. The pastor frowned. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed. "Meow! Meow!" The unmistakable cry of a goat. Yet no goat was in sight. Chidi's hands twisted, his head contorting. Saliva foamed at his mouth. Before the shocked audience, his body transformed, his head and arms morphing into that of a black goat with long horns, while his suit remained. Amaka screamed. Guests scattered in terror. The hall broke into chaos, and the goat man's voice bellowed, "Take me and my wife down to the village." The once joyful hall was now a battlefield of screams and confusion. Guests tripped over chairs, mothers clutched their children, and photographers dropped their cameras as the strange bleating echoed louder. "Meh! Meh!" But the voice wasn't of a normal goat. It was deeper, haunting, almost human. The goat-headed groom staggered forward, saliva dripping, his horns glistening under the hall lights. His eyes, once kind, were now fiery and wild. Amaka's face turned pale, her hands trembling as she stumbled back. "No, this can't be real. This can't be my chidi." The director of the orphanage stood frozen, his Bible clutched tightly, sweat running down his face. The pastor raised his voice in fear. "Jesus Christ, what is this abomination?" Chidi, or what used to be him, roared again, his distorted voice booming. "Take me and my wife to the village." No one dared resist. The elders quickly decided, "We must take him to the village chief." Within minutes, a van was arranged. The goat-headed groom was forced into a wooden cage, still dressed in his wedding suit. Amaka, trembling in her gown, was escorted inside the van. Alongside her sat Chidi's mother, face buried in her palms, weeping. The orphanage director, pale but prayerful. The pastor, clutching his Bible tightly. And a few elders who whispered in shock. The drive was heavy with silence. Only the occasional "Meh!" broke the air, making everyone flinch. Amaka sat stiffly, tears streaming down her face, clutching her bouquet like a shield. She whispered brokenly, "God, what have I done to deserve this? Why must my joy always turn to pain?" The pastor leaned toward her, voice trembling but firm. "Daughter, do not fear. Sometimes hidden sins of the past rise in ways we cannot explain. Hold on to your faith." But even his words shook, betraying his fear. By dusk, they reached Kitata village. News had already spread like wildfire. The compound of the chief was crowded, men, women, and children all waiting, their faces dark with curiosity and fear. The cage was placed in the center of the compound. The goat-headed groom stomped, shaking the bars, eyes blazing. The chief, stern and commanding, raised his staff. "Silence! Let order reign here!" Everyone quieted, though murmurs still buzzed. Amaka, still in her gown, was led forward. She stood trembling, a broken bride before her people. The chief's voice thundered. "Today, the gods and our eyes will reveal the truth. Pastor, begin with prayer." The pastor stood tall, though sweat drenched his face. He lifted his Bible and began a hymn. Slowly, voices joined, trembling at first, then stronger. "Holy Spirit, descend upon us," he prayed loudly. "Expose every hidden work of darkness. Reveal every secret that chains these souls." As the prayer rose, the goat bleated louder. "Me! Me!" The cage shook violently. Women covered their ears, children hid behind their mothers. Suddenly, before everyone's eyes, a spirit appeared. It took the form of a lady, pale and glowing, her face sorrowful yet stern. She pointed directly at the goat and cried, "You cannot marry my daughter!" Gasps filled the crowd. Some screamed, others fell to their knees. Amaka's body shook uncontrollably. The pastor's voice trembled. "Who are you? Speak. In the name of Jesus, reveal yourself." The spirit turned slowly, her eyes falling on Amaka. Her voice cracked with pain. "I am Mama Amaka, her mother, poisoned, betrayed, and silenced." The crowd erupted in cries of shock. Elders held their mouths, women wept aloud. Amaka fell to her knees, sobbing. Mama, is it truly you?" The spirit nodded, tears rolling down her ghostly face. "Yes, my sunshine. They took me from you too soon, and now they come again through deception to destroy your joy." The pastor stepped forward boldly. "Who are they? Explain. Who is behind this?" The spirit's finger pointed straight at the goat. "He is not Chidi. His true name is Judu, the son of the woman who poisoned me." The crowd gasped again. Murmurs spread like fire. "Judu? Could it be? The same Judu who left the village years ago?" "Yes," the spirit cried. "He and his mother destroyed me. They fed me poisoned cake. They watched me die, leaving my child to suffer in the streets." All eyes turned toward Chidi's mother, now revealed as Mama Judu. She collapsed to the ground, weeping uncontrollable. The chief thundered, "Woman, speak! Is this true?" Mama Judu shook violently, clutching the earth. Finally, through sobs, she cried, Yes, it is true. I was blinded by jealousy. Her business flourished, mine failed. My son suffered bruises. I thought she was a curse. So I poisoned her, thinking my life would be better. Her cries pierced the night. The crowd moaned in horror. Some shouted curses, others covered their faces. But instead, Mama Judu continued, I cursed myself. My son never knew peace. Even when he grew, strange shadows followed him. Now he stands here, half man, half beast. She beat her chest, wailing, forgive me, ancestors. Forgive me, Amaka. The spirit of Mama Amaka lifted her hand. The air grew heavy, the wind circling the compound. My daughter, listen. This curse will never leave Judu until his mother pays the same price she forced on me. He will wander, half man, half beast, until she too dies. Gasps, wails. Mama Judu fainted, then revived, crying louder. Amaka wept uncontrollably, her gown stained with dust. The spirit's voice softened as she looked at her daughter. Sunshine, be strong. I have walked with you all these years. I must go now, but remember, you are destined to rise. No curse will chain you if you hold on to God. Slowly, her form dissolved into the night, leaving the crowd shaken to their core. The chief rose, his voice breaking with emotion. Let this be a lesson. Jealousy breeds destruction. Poison breeds curses. Let no one among us walk this path again. The pastor followed, his voice firm though his eyes were wet. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers of darkness. And Galatians 6:7 warns us, whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. The crowd dispersed in tears, some in fear, others in silence. Amaka remained with the orphanage director, trembling, her dreams shattered once more. The cage with the goat man was dragged aside, and Mama Judu lay weeping beside it. The wedding gown, torn and dusty, was left abandoned in the compound. Amaka stood quietly, her head bowed. The orphanage director gently held her hand. My daughter, let us leave. You have suffered enough for one lifetime. The pastor added softly, the Lord will carry you forward, even from this sorrow. Together, they walked to the van. Amaka's gown dragged in the dust, torn and forgotten, but she walked with slow, determined steps. The cage with Judu remained in the compound, his bleeding weaker now. Mama Judu lay beside it, crying into the earth. The van engine roared to life. The pastor, Amaka, and the acting parent climbed in, and without another word, they drove away from the village. The compound fell quiet, but the story did not end there. It is now in your hands, the listeners and readers. You have seen how jealousy poisoned one heart, destroyed a family, and cursed a child. You have seen how envy, once planted, grew until it consumed everything. If jealousy rises in your heart, will you fight it before it grows? Or will you let it destroy you and those you love? Leave your comments below. What touched you most in Amaka's story? What lesson do you take away for your own life? Because stories like this live not only in villages, they live in us. Every day we choose between envy and love. Subscribe to this channel for more true life lessons like this. God bless you.